I'm proud to say this podcast is sponsored by Discover Delicious, an online shop for the finest in Welsh food, drink and foodie experiences from independent producers around Wales. Discover Delicious is the largest collection of Welsh food and drink online. Go to www.discoverdelicious.wales to see more. Hello and welcome to the Clonc podcast. This podcast is based on my favourite things in the whole world, food and drink. And this podcast lets me indulge in that passion a little bit more. In each podcast, we'll be talking about a certain subject, a subject that I'll be having the fortune to speak to people who live and breathe about that subject. So people in that industry who either supply that product or are involved in producing it. This week's podcast is on coffee. Now, coffee is something that millions of us drink. It's part of our daily routines. Some people can't function without a cup of it. Some people need it just to get by. Some people meet over a cup, and tired parents like me need it to just keep on going. I'm very fortunate to be in the company of two Cardiff coffee heavyweights. We've got Ian from Brody's Coffee Co., a cabin serving coffee. I like to refer to it as like a beacon of caffeinated hope. That's how I describe it.
I like that. That's nice.
Yes, that's nice.
And we've got Matt from Hardlines here, and we are in your new establishment. So Thank you very much for hosting us.
No worries.
So I'd like to start off the podcast a little bit about, how you guys got into coffee and what was your first memories of coffee and how did you eventually end up in the industry? So Ian, do you want to go first?
Yeah, of course. So my wife and I, before we got married, we travelled for quite a long time. And we lived out in New Zealand. And if you've ever been to New Zealand, it's just a mecca for coffee. Like Wellington is just paradise. And at the time I was a baker, so I baked for a coffee chain, Mojo, and my wife learned to become a barista.
Okay.
And when you've drunk like flat whites on the daily in New Zealand, and you come back here and you see Costa and Nero, and it just doesn't match up. So we kind of realised straight away that there was a real gap in the market, and we realised that was something we were passionate about and we wanted to do.
So that was the first point. Coffee became more than just a drink you order.
Yeah, for sure. Like it was lifestyle. So we'd get up together at 6 o'clock in the morning. My wife would go to the shop and she'd work like 6 till 5, some crazy hours. And then I would be baking for like 12 hours for all of the coffee chains, for all of the coffee shops within this chain I worked for. But when I say chain, they were an independent that started from one, a lot like you guys, like it's a roastery, and they had the roaster in the store. It was like right in the centre of Wellington. And just the smell every morning when you walked into the city, because it's mountainous, you come down the hill and just get slapped in the face with the smell of like cooking toast, which is like a roaster. And there were just roasters everywhere, and I worked directly opposite the roaster in the one that I worked in as well. And it was just like the passion that people feel for it is amazing, but it's also the difference when people pay the product respect.
Okay.
Like when they really, really go for it, it makes such a...
It's definitely like a way of life, especially over that side of the world, I think, isn't it? It's very much a way of life, I think, more so than it is here.
We were only there for 8 months, but in that time we'd watch people open up coffee shops without knowing what they were doing, and then close coffee shops 3 months later because the standard was so high. If it wasn't good when they walked in the first day, you were just done for.
Yeah, you lost them.
I think it's like a calling card some way of Australia on how they feel about coffee. They take it very seriously, and you said quality is key.
Yeah. I mean, there's the friendly debate over whether the flat white originated in New Zealand or Australia. But I mean, I'm always team New Zealand. But I had some amazing coffees in Melbourne and around Australia as well. The Southern Hemisphere still have the edge on us, but you can see Europe, now that we're waking up to it, we're gaining momentum really fast. And it's really, really cool to see, because just in the short time we've been in Cardiff, the number of independents.
Yeah, I think so. And it's like, I think stylistically it's different throughout the globe, I think. Like coffee, and I've not been lucky enough to go to Australia or New Zealand yet, but I think I would imagine certainly like America, and I've done a bit of America, maybe the style of coffee there might be very different to the style of coffee you might see in Scandinavia or in the UK, or if you go over to like Tokyo, I know is like a really, really big mecca now for coffee as well. So it's interesting to see how different countries put their spin on this humble ingredient.
So do you think your entry point, like that Australia is where you and coffee, you had your lifelong relationship, cemented that. Do you think it's where you are influences sort of what coffee means to you, or what your expectations of coffee are? For example, what was your entry point into?
Yeah, mine's definitely not as romantic as that, I don't think. But it was very much, we had some jobs previously doing some sort of sound work and touring sound work, and me and Soph, who's not here today, but we sort of came to the end of a road with one job and sort of started putting together some ideas of what we wanted to create and what at the time we thought Cardiff might have been missing. Yeah. Always knew it wanted to be something circulating within food and drink. Yeah. We took a little trip to Barcelona in the January of 2016, I think it was. Yeah, there is. We're finding it. Barcelona. There's no romance between me and Sophie. Let me put that on record. Maybe so. We just discovered a couple of spots out there that we were really, really drawn to, and I remember sitting there thinking this is what I would want where I live. So why don't we try and put that, back home, sort of thing, and hopefully 3 years later or however long later, we've come on a journey and got to an end goal where we finally built something that we're happy with, and we hope people like to come and hang out, I suppose.
If you go to a city like Barcelona, you're going to be pretty inspired.
Yeah, I think so.
By food and drink.
Yeah.
So did you go to Barcelona looking for coffee?
No, we just went on a holiday. We went on a little we went to Prague and we went to Barcelona immediately after each other just to get away for a bit. But we'd had a bit of a rough Christmas, I think is probably fair to say, or we'd both done some jobs around that Christmas period that we were both very much not enjoying, and sort of knew that we were coming to the end of our tether with that sort of work. And I think we just sort of spun around Barcelona for a while and were like, oh yeah, I was generally into food before that and eating and cooking and all of that sort of stuff. But yeah, that might have been the switch point, I think, where we said we could probably do something. But then obviously the difference between saying I'm going to go and open a coffee shop or whatever it is and ending up doing that is a very long journey. Yeah, exactly. You work for it, right? And you sort of try to, and I think probably this different, a little bit offshoot from just talking about coffee, but I've always seen it as more than just coffee. I think.
I was going to come on to that.
I think so. I think it's very
do you think it's a culture, community?
I think, yeah.
But I'm right. Okay, perhaps community makes it sound very cliquey, but do you think it is a cultural thing?
I think, from my end, definitely, it's I think a lot of places these days, you can say they do a good cup of coffee. You could go and have a decent cup of coffee and it would be fine. I think what then differentiates the reason you'd want to go back to Brody's or come back here, hopefully, is maybe the service, maybe aesthetically, maybe, how you've been treated, the food.
It's the indefinable vibe.
It's just feeling comfortable somewhere and, a good cup of coffee is a big part of that. But I think it's what comes along with that is going to be what really cements you in the coffee culture and the cafe environment.
It's in our language. Do you want to meet for a cup of coffee?
Yeah.
They may not actually mean go for a cup of coffee. They want a social gathering. Yeah. They want to chat. And yes, it's likely that they will have coffee, but it's like a phrase now, isn't it? Do you want to meet for some coffee, Yeah. It's just indicating you want to meet, let's meet up and let's do something.
I think so.
And where do you think that's emanated from? Do you think that's come from over the pond? Do you think things like film and TV have had an influence in American culture to influence the UK culture? And where do you think we are now with it? Because I know, growing up, so I grew up in Bristol, one of my earliest memories of being watching or people talking about coffee on the TV was watching Frasier.
Yeah.
We went to Coffee Nervosa, and then friends came along and they were all in a coffee house. And I was 16 at this time, and I'm like, oh, I think I want to do that.
Yeah.
And I remember going to a chain coffee place in Bristol and looking at the prices, not knowing what the drinks were, and I ordered the cheapest thing on the menu. Do you know what the cheapest coffee is on the menu? Of course you guys do. So I ordered an espresso. At 16, sitting there with like this tiny little cup. And I think I put about 4 or 5 sugars in it just to take the edge off.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because obviously there's not a lot of good things to maybe say about the chains, but in the same sense, that's pretty much a lot of people's entry level to coffee.
Is that first or second wave?
That's that second 2.5 wave sort of thing, isn't it? But like, it's weird because everyone's always very down on them, and maybe rightly so in some cases, but and then it sort of gets you, or Starbucks gets you, or Costa gets you, and then some people go beyond that and maybe discover what their local is or what their local coffee shop is. And I can't speak maybe on behalf of like the other side of the world or Australia or New Zealand, but maybe I don't know whether independent is more integrated there with.
Certainly in Wellington, I remember there's 2 chain shops in Wellington, which is a Gloria Jeans and a Starbucks, and both of them were always empty. But that's probably because they're further along the journey. They might have more Starbucks, I don't know, but this was in 2005, 2006, and then maybe 2000. There was loads of Starbucks, and people came along and went, "Wait, this is just better." Yeah,
let's do this. But it's funny because the same for me. My probably entry level to coffee was a badly crafted coffee from a Starbucks or from a Costa. But then there's something as time develops, your palate develops, and you start to clock what you like and what you don't like, and then you move into a different world with anything, probably with wine or with beer.
It's a social thing, though. You're generally going with friends, or you're going with someone, or you're going on, a date or whatever. Generally, your entry point into coffee is a social sort of event around
a gathering. Certainly.
I think we've benefited from recession times as well, because people still wanted to gather and still wanted to eat, but maybe weren't going for 2 or 3 or 4 pints every night, but they could have that coffee. So it's a downgrade on the luxury only in the sense of value, money. But what you do is, you go meet at a coffee shop, but you don't meet necessarily for after work beers. And then after that time when people were counting the pennies, they kind of realise, actually, I feel a lot better about going for a coffee in the middle of the day or at 5 o'clock than I do going for beers and waking up with a sore head.
And do you think TV, film, culture, social media has had an influence on I think probably nowadays social media, but if we just park that for 1 minute and just talk about film and television, do you think that had an influence on coffee culture?
It did on me.
It did on me.
My wife and I often talk about it. I don't know if you watch Law and Order a lot. But one of our first goals when we said we wanted a coffee shop was to be that van in Law and Order that they always get the coffee from, talking about the big case. We love that. And we still refer back to the Law and Order coffee van. Yeah,
I think so. I mean, it's one of those things. I refer back to friends of our generation when it became super popular, that you just wanted to look for a central perk. You wanted that comfy sofa and whatnot, and then Starbucks landed not long after or during, and they gave you a slice of that, and you're like, okay. But I think
I've never, but at the same time, I've never really thought about it, or never really thought, oh, that's what's led me to, or that's what's influenced me. But probably you're being influenced by it without realizing you're being influenced by it. Is probably the thing, isn't it?
What about in terms of where we are now with coffee culture? And let's speak about Cardiff. We're based in Cardiff. Where do you think we are now with the coffee scene and the coffee vibe? You mentioned it briefly there at the beginning about the numerous independents that we have here doing awesome things. Where do you think we are with it? And who do you think? Is this coming down from London? Are we doing our own thing?
I mean, I think we're generally, I think we're at a very good place. I think we're probably obviously still a little bit behind maybe Bristol or London maybe, or even a Manchester that I go to occasionally. But I don't think that's a bad thing. I think but people can come in. There's still plenty of room for people to come into that market to be like, this is what I want to do, and I want to be different, and this is my stamp, and this is what we stand for. Something, yeah. I mean, that's certainly a lot of the drive behind what we've tried to build here. Yeah. It's like, I'd like someone to come in here and say, there's nothing like this in Cardiff.
Yep.
That's what I want from it. And I think that hopefully is what customers want from it as well. That sense of something unique, something different, something that stands up on its own 2 feet. I think there's definitely still very much a chain culture in Cardiff. I think you can see it's relatively dominant still.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
But that's driven by rent.
Yes.
So affordability of having a central unit. For people who don't know, do you want to just describe where yours coffee
So
shop
we're
is?
in a former Parkkeeper's Hut, just in front of the National Museum of Wales. So when we got there, and it was actually, I was doing an event because we started out with a camper van.
I remember.
We did that 6.5 years ago, and we did that for just under 5 years.
You used to do the markets as well, didn't you? Riverside Market. Yeah.
We did. Did you do? Yeah. Roast you did for a long time. Yeah, that's right.
We did Riverside once or twice, but not too much
that's...
because logistics and stuff with the market management. But we did an event, and it was a Velathon actually. And the previous year had been really busy, but this year, as often as you know with events, what they do is they go, "Oh, that was really successful.
Yeah.
I'm going to put 12 coffee vans in."
Yeah, and raise the pitch for you by £500. Yeah.
So I went for a walk, in a really happy state of mind, and wandered around the parks and the gardens, and saw this old shed and couldn't get it out of my head for the next probably a month. And then it just felt like fate because I was halfway through emailing the council to ask about it. When I thought I'll just do one more Google search on it, and that day it just come up for tender.
Yeah.
But, well, then at the time I had a very good job, very good job, but it was like, okay, this really feels like decision time. So we went for it, and we were in the shed in front of the museum, in the gardens there. There's loads of events happening there, but we're just such a small building, such a small space. So we have to do the best with what we've got.
Yeah, I think it's similar because beyond this, we've got that little hatch in Cardiff Market. So those are reasonable, similar comparisons, I suppose, between our hatch and
that's why I said earlier about it should take time, because if you guys had opened this place when you first started out, it wouldn't be anything like this.
It wouldn't seem fair. Yeah.
But even then, you've learned a lot in the last 3 years before you've done this.
Definitely. A lot of mistakes we've made or lessons we've learned to be able to do this effectively, certainly.
And built a reputation to drive people in.
I think circulating back actually to Cardiff and where it's at currently, I think it's loyalty and the people who are really keen for that and really keen for the independence and that community feel are really, really super supportive of everyone trying to do what they do. And you have really, really passionate regulars, friends as well. We've been at this for about 4 years now, and you've built customers as well as friends along the way, and they'll back you, as long as you're giving them something to back. They're really, really up for it, which is really good. And we've relied heavily on the people of Cardiff and our customers and that loyalty to get us here, from Kickstarter to, coming and finding us in smaller locations or events or whatever it is. So yeah, regardless of anything, I can't question the sort of Cardiff people.
Well, I think you said it there at the beginning. The thing I like about it is there's growth space there. There's space for people to do their own thing and bring something new and continue to increase their independent offering of quality coffee in Cardiff. And you mentioned there patronage, people coming back, people, regulars. It's much like, when you go to a bar and they know your favourite drink, do you guys remember people's faces and their drinks or their names?
What they did on the weekend or what they're doing this week or, all
so
of
like
that.
when they come in, do
All
you ever presume to make their drink before they order it?
80%.
80%.
With us where we are.
Yeah.
Because it's commuters.
Yeah.
People going for US.
Yeah, and I think they like that, don't they? They sort of acknowledge that, and that's probably one of the reasons they keep
But
coming
have you ever
back.
had that thing when you run into someone and you're like, that's flat white?
Yeah, or you call them by
That's
call them by their Instagram name, or you do whatever you do because absolutely. But I think people, and again, it comes back to the service you provide and what you can afford to do, I suppose, as an independent, or is that sort of informality, I suppose, like the ability to sort of talk to them as just a real person or a real friend, which maybe you can't do maybe in some of the chains.
Well, what do you mean you're not going to ask them for their name to write on the cup?
Yeah, maybe that. Yeah.
You don't know how many. I actually change my name when I go. If I use one of those outlets and they ask me name for the cup, I just say Jeff.
Yeah,
just keep it easy, Jeff, and then they'll spell it with a J. I'm actually it's with a J. You guys still messed it up.
Yeah.
I haven't been in one of those places in quite a few years, but
oh my god, we're treating it like Voldemort, the one that cannot be named, one of those places.
But the couple of times I've been in, my wife still reminds me of it because I go by Brody. Most of the time, because my father has the same name as me, so all the time I grew up, I was always just Brody. And so they always write Bogey on my card.
Bogey.
It's happened to me.
That's cool.
It's another reason not to recognise these
And bring you on to my next question. Do you think people in general are still daunted by coffee, and that's why they may go for a more chain-like approach rather than go into independent?
Yes, I guess familiarity is a big thing in that, I think, or like just knowing what you're getting and knowing you can just walk in and it's the same and you haven't got to like look around or you haven't got to like do any of that. So maybe, I guess it's our job to break down that wall as best we can.
So I wish more people who were daunted about it would go to an independent first.
Yeah.
Because you're more likely to get your questions answered relatably rather than a place trying to just whip through some orders. Because I think the names can still be daunting to a lot of people new to coffee and things like that.
I mean, a side note on that, what I think Cardiff does do really well with our independent coffee shops is most of them aren't patronising or really snobby, but I think there is that fear that that's what they'll get laughed at or looked down on if they ask a question. There are in London, so there's a few people. Yeah,
but even now, I think I've not been to one of those places where I've come out thinking, oh my god, he's really rude or they're really rude in a while, because people need the customers, don't they? You can't afford anymore to be this snobby barista behind the bar that sniffs if you don't know what a filter is or whatever it is. Like, you need to treat every customer with a great deal of respect, and you want to see them again and you want them to come back. So I think the days, I hope anyway, certainly I've had no experience recently at it, like I think the days of isolating snobby barista coffee shops is gone, and hopefully more welcoming, friendly, warm spaces to continue.
That's one of the motivations behind wanting to talk about coffee, aside from loving coffee myself. I just want more people to just try really good coffee and support some independence. And like you said, you're more likely to feel, once you cross that threshold, walk through the door, say hello, you go, actually, there's nothing really to worry about. You know, if you've got any issues about the names or anything, just ask somebody.
Oh, yeah, I think so.
And I think that the quality speaks for itself. Just to touch on that briefly, behind us, got your coffee roaster. So how long have you guys been roasting coffee?
It'll be coming up to 2 years or so now.
Okay.
Something when we set out early doors we were very keen to do. Certainly couldn't do it in the very early days, so relied on some good roasters back then. And then as we gradually got more confident and the possibilities started to arise, sort of made that leap, started small. we were lucky at the time that we were starting roasting, we already had the outlet in Cardiff Market.
Okay.
So what that allowed us to do was roast coffee for us and see how it was going and how it was tasting. And then gradually, as we got more confident and started buying better coffee, we could say, hey, do you want some of our coffee? Or, approach other cafes or other shops or customers. So about 2 years. And over the last, maybe since moving in here, really, it's sort of ramped up. And now we stock some really amazing independents in Cardiff, Penland Pantry, Secret Garden, Wild Thing, who are doing amazing things in Grangetown, just lots and lots of places just doing really, really cool things. And that's what gets me excited, is working with those independents.
And talk about coffee roasting, just if you can describe briefly to people who don't know what that involves, what does coffee roasting involve in a nutshell?
Turning green things brown.
Okay, green things being?
Green things being the coffee as it arrives. So the coffee arrives green, with sort of really minimal smell or odour or anything really, just a very neutral product.
Okay.
And the idea is you pop it in the roaster, and then that then comes down to temperature control, airflow, duration of roasting.
Okay.
All of those components coming together consistently, time and time again, to develop a roast profile, we call it. So you might have a coffee that might have more fruit flavours or more chocolate flavours or more nut flavours.
Yeah.
And our job as coffee roasters is to enhance and develop those flavours as we want them. So we might roast differently to... again, it's like cooking, I suppose, like cooking a cake or baking bread, or we might do that differently to how other roasters do. And we might think this way is better, and other roasters might think this way is better. It's very up for grabs, roasting, and it's an interesting subject because everyone's very closed off about roasting. Nobody really says, hey, this is what I'm doing and this is how I'm doing it. There's a little bit of the dark art behind it, I think, or people try to make it out like it's very cloak and dagger, whereas really it's not. It's just turning green things brown.
Just winging it.
Really. And everyone's trying to say that theirs is the best, maybe.
So you're getting the raw product, screening.
Yeah. So before,
imported it.
Yeah, we've used companies that we work with to import it. We've tried samples in the lead up to arrival. So we would get sent samples saying, here's 20 Brazil coffees. Have a taste. What ones do you like? And we do what's called a cupping, and we select what lot of Brazil coffee we might want for the next harvest, and we would then buy that coffee. That coffee would arrive green. We'd roast it. Hopefully it tastes somewhere similar to how we tasted it 3 or 4 months previously. And then we'd bag it, put it in the shop and sell it.
And you mentioned another coffee term there, and I'll ask Ian to take this one. Cupping.
Cupping.
See, you can't say it without a little chuckle. Cupping. Do you want to explain to people what cupping is?
So cupping, again, it's very much Matt's domain. I've been to a few cuppings, but all it is the most simple form of coffee. So it's coffee with hot water, and then you let it steep for a minute, 2 minutes, depending on what you're going for, and then using a very special little spoon, having a sniff, to push it back and have a smell of the aromas you're getting off that coffee, and then you taste it with that spoon. And it is the most simple form of coffee, but it also probably carries the most flavour.
It's how you would. So that's how you would. So when you read maybe a bag of our coffee, you'll see like milk chocolate, hazelnuts, and whatever else we've put on the bags. And then that's at that point on the cupping table is where we've started to differentiate those flavours and find those flavours. So you might get a lot more chocolate and nut from, say, a Brazil coffee, whereas you might get more strawberries and cream from a coffee from Ethiopia. So it's that kind of thing, really, and cupping is a large part of that and how we come to those decisions of tasting notes, I suppose.
And there are events sometimes, aren't there?
Yeah. We try to gather people. We haven't done one here yet, so we're looking to do that in the next couple of months, but gather people together so we can all cup.
Is that an industry thing?
No, we do. Yeah.
Sorry. is that an industry thing, or can just anyone come on?
We as with anything we try to just open it up to somebody who's never cupped before or has cupped plenty before, other roasteries to come down and cup, or get sent coffee from other roasteries so we can compare similar coffees. So yeah, it'll definitely
sounds highbrow.
I don't know, like anything.
There's normally a couple of beers.
There's a couple of beers afterwards, always
fine.
to just cut it in. That's fine. So no, like wine tasting or beer tasting, or imagine it like that. And who's got the loudest slurp tends to be the battle halfway through. But no, I'd encourage anyone to try.
I think it's good because you've explained a couple of things there that the normal consumer wouldn't know, the roasting process roughly and the cupping thing. Ian, I want to ask you about things like flat white. So, how often do you get asked? Is that the most popular drink at the moment? Actually, both of you. Is flat white the most popular drink?
Yeah, until it is. Yeah.
And what proportion of people actually know what a flat white is?
I'd say probably. People are quite educated with the flat white now. They're used to it, because if you're ordering a flat white, it's normally not your first time.
It's not your first time ordering a flat white.
But what we've done since we opened is we've slowly crept kind of more exciting coffees onto the menu. So we get asked more often what a cortado is or what a long black is.
Yeah.
But again, it's one of those things, it's a myth to say that it's complicated, because it's not. It's just the dilution rate and the texture of the milk. That's pretty much the only thing that changes. So
I guess I think this, again, people do things differently for different reasons. Some people will
I think people order it because they hear it.
Again, I come back to that whole TV thing. I don't know, or whether it just seems to have become the popular coffee, I suppose.
So for people who don't know, listen to this. For the record, what is a flat white?
I bet your flat white will be different to yours.
At its core, a flat white is a double espresso with steamed milk, virtually no air in it at all.
Silky smooth.
Some people do it 6 ounce, some people do it 8 ounce, but it's never a big coffee. Not in the UK, but ironically, in New Zealand they do a big flat white, which just throws the whole world into chaos.
Okay, fine.
But the shots are much bigger there, like 22, 23 gram shots.
Okay. And what's your definition?
Yeah, that would pretty much be spot on. Yeah, we serve a sort of 6 ounce flat white, so relatively small-ish. But again, it'll come back around to how big a cup size do you do generally. So then that dictates where your flat white sits on your 8-10 ounce thing. So yeah, usually for us it's a 6 ounce drink, double shot of espresso, and nicely steamed milk. So again, trying not to. Again, we're a little bit. Not different, there's other people who do that, but generally our milk texture, if you want to get more complicated, is relatively similar throughout our drinks, and it's mainly we then come down to cup size, which is the differentiator between drink sizes, like between drinks. So maybe a latte or cappuccino would sit in a 8 ounce, whereas a flat white would sit in a 6 ounce. And then we try mainly from a consistency perspective, so then we can train our baristas and the people who work here to steam really good milk, and then that's universal across our drinks. So it's a slight, it comes down to the cafe and what the cafe wants and how they want to run it, really.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly one of the ones that I think have helped to boost coffee sales, the flat whites, you know, and
it's a little bit cheaper, it's stronger, and again, if you have a 6 ounce one, it's going to taste a little bit stronger than an 8 ounce one. So there are differentials, but the key is it should be like a tasty coffee. It's got enough milk in there that if you're not a massive fan of espresso, you can still really enjoy that coffee because it's been diluted and mixed with the sweet.
Yeah, it's probably popular because it's now probably seen as. It's just seen as the coffee, isn't it? It's just seen as like, if you want a coffee in the morning, it's a flat white because it's got some milk in it and it's got plenty of espresso in it. So, like, and then people might think like, oh, cappuccino's a bit old-fashioned, or I don't want chocolate on a cappuccino.
You say that. So, sometimes I will go, and I'll say that when I'm ordering. I'm like, can I order a really, I'll say the words old school cappuccino. And they go, oh yeah. I'm like, no. I want it like really frothy on top. Like, I want to dip the pastries into it, into the foam.
Get a spoon and
lots of chocolate, please. Where's the chocolate? I don't want any latte art on the cappuccino. That shouldn't be there. Oh, loads of foam, lots of chocolate on it. And in terms of latte art, is that like a prerequisite now? You have to do some.
When I don't know about you, but when I hire people, I'm not looking at their latte art at all.
Okay.
I'm looking at their espresso skills, their talent. Because no matter how good your latte art is, if your espresso sucks, the coffee is going to suck. So for me, it's all about espresso, because milk is one of those things that it can be learned quite quickly.
Yeah, you can teach it with most things, I suppose, in coffee. So as long as the attitude, we'd even look beyond that. We'd look for people with. Sometimes it's better to bring on people with zero experience, and then you can lead them up.
Better willingness.
Yeah, and they're up for learning. That's again similar to what we've tried to do here. And there's a strict no swan ban at Hardline. So there was a time where it felt like everyone was putting swans in my drinks, and I was like, I don't want that. So there was very much just do me a heart and let's be done with it. So there's a swan ban at Hardlines. Don't do any swans.
That's one of your hashtags.
Swans are dead.
Hashtag no swans.
Kill the swans.
But just like with you, if you get a very adorned cup, right, and the guy's like,
he's more pleased with it than you are usually, or whatever.
I just really want some coffee.
I've seen an amazing meme where they just say, like, that moment when you realise that the 19-tiered tulip gets as much attention as a very basic heart. Like, people aren't that. People are impressing themselves.
Just don't burn the milk, please.
That's what I think. That's why baristas do it usually. It's just to keep. Say if they're making 100, 200, 300 coffees a day, whatever they're making. It's just to keep. It's more latte art is more for the barista than it is the customer.
I think it's also showing that you are actually putting the craft into it.
You're thinking about it, aren't you? And
And I mentioned this earlier on, and I said I'll put it on one side. Surely social media and Instagram, if it looks pretty, more likely to get a photo taken of it.
Yes, I think
coffee.
Coffee, aesthetics. Like a lot of what we've done over the past 3 years has been social media led, and a lot of hopefully some of our successes have been down to Instagrammable content. We launched some sort of pink coffee a couple of years back. And that went a bit mental, and people. We are in a social media age, so we'd be silly as business owners not to engage with it and take advantage of it.
You both are very good on your social media game. Just for people listening, do you guys want to hit us up with your Instagram handles?
Yeah, it's Hardlines Coffee for us.
It's Brody's_coffee for me.
Both very good on the story game. Very good on the story game.
Check the highlights.
Well, if you want. For you, recently, it's just been the juxtaposition between, like you said, your cabin and the gargantuan winter wonderland, and the juxtaposition is very, very clear.
David and Goliath.
And then one of my favourite things of you with the new shop, we'll come on to that a bit, is people just having a look.
Yeah, people just love to have a look.
I'm just addicted to that on stories.
Yeah, I get it. They're just curious. So they're just interested in what we're doing, and hopefully, if we can stop them from looking through the window and just get them in, we'll have a chat.
I know, that's the thing.
Have you thought about just putting a mirror there?
Yeah.
Someone doing it just now.
Just
Bradfield from the Manitou Preacher.
He wants his coffee.
What?
Hi, James.
Have a look at your menu.
Yeah, there he is. He'll be in tomorrow now. I'll speak to him.
This is what I love about Cardiff.
Yeah.
That
there you go.
The lead singer of Manic Street Preachers is looking in through the window.
Ask him in. He might have his own opinions on coffee.
He's gone off now.
He really does. He's a coffee aficionado.
Okay.
He used to be a regular of my wife's when she worked for the only chain that can be mentioned, which is Coffee One.
Okay.
She worked for the OG in Wood Street.
Right.
There we are.
That's a bit surreal. That's really cool. And here we have the leading singer of the Iron Maiden. No, just joking. Right. Talking about coffee chains. Name your top 3 worst coffee chains.
Top 3 worst.
Top 3 worst coffee chains.
I think the Costa. I think each of them, if you were being really charitable, they have one thing that you can find to drink in there. So I personally can't. damn Starbucks coffee, but I think Nero's coffee is even worse than Starbucks.
So if you had to put it, was it Costa?
For coffee alone,
Yeah.
Nero, then Starbucks.
What, Nero worst?
Nero is the absolute worst coffee for me, personally.
I love it.
Italian, yeah? Italian based.
It's just so bitter. And I've watched like 12-second shots there before. People paying £3 for that.
Yeah.
So yeah, Nero is the absolute worst for me, but just my palate. Starbucks and then Costa. That said, my life hack for Starbucks is if you get a filter and get soy milk in it.
There you go. There you go. Top 3.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even remember the last time I had either of those coffees in my hand. So it'd be unfair for me to really hammer any of them, I suppose. But yeah, I can never remember having any good experience in any of those 3. So
Service stations for me.
So yeah, when you really, really must. But we're in a world now where you can get instant specialty coffee, where you can have little sachets of instant coffee from specialty roasters around the country, and that might be the new get you through.
I refer to it as service station chic.
Yes,
all of them,
yes.
Because I so heavily associate it with service stations that when I go to any of them, if I go to any of them, I need to use a loo sometimes.
Yeah, everyone does.
But I think probably Costa number 1 for me, Criminal.
Yeah, the ones.
I mean, what Costa's done to coffee in terms of the vending machine coffee and all that stuff, it has taken a Coca-Cola approach,
which is interesting because it's now
works. But the vending machine side of things, I've got no problem with a vending machine serving coffee. You have to make it like.
Yeah, it's interesting now though because all of those chains, Costa actually, I think. More so, maybe. They're definitely like employing lots of people to sort of tag on to those, like what speciality is doing, or trying to imitate or add cortados to their menu, or affogatos in the summer, or there's definitely like a development thing going on in Costa or in some of those chains to see how they can maybe swing back some of the independent now loyalists. So same with McDonald's, you've got that whole like it's a basic flat white advert, or don't go to a barista thing.
They try to play on the fear of the hipsterism of coffee. Going, look, don't go and be belittled in one of these trendy coffee places. Just come to your good old mates.
Yeah, maybe
your
the
friendly local McDonald's.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think an argument.
Greg's now doing coffees.
I think an argument can be had on both sides of that, in the sense that McDonald's have got that advert from somewhere, or have we done some of that to ourselves when we were just talking earlier about the whole snobby barista thing? Has something that's been set out in that early doors now come back to say, oh yeah, stop doing that, and hence why we're doing hopefully what we're trying to do now. But yeah, Greg's again, like, it's weird to fault Greg's because sometimes they just
mate, that's a different podcast.
Yeah, you could do a podcast on Greg's.
Oh no, my worst nightmare. My worst nightmare. But if we just coming to a close, just if you guys want to just let people know where they can find you and get what you do a little bit. So if you want to go in first.
So yeah, like we said earlier, you can find us in Gorset Gardens, directly in front of the museum. We're open 7 days a week. At the moment, January, February, we're just open 8 till 3 weekdays, and then 10 till 5 on the weekends, because it's dark. It's wet. We don't really want to come to the park. During the summer, we open a bit longer. And really, like I say, if I had to summarise us, even though we've just spent all this time talking about coffee, and again, it's why I really, really like you guys at Hardlines as well, is we're personality and kind of hospitality first, coffee second. So we do the coffee to the best of our ability, but it's more important to us that we are a community space where, like you say, people can come and sit and have a coffee. So you'll often see people having their meetings and interviews, and sometimes disciplinaries, which is hilarious to watch.
It's a lovely idea to have all of that in a garden atmosphere or park atmosphere, not inside 4 walls. I think it's quite a nice idea in my head.
Well, it has its drawbacks.
Weather and stuff,
time,
maybe.
Like on a sunny day, some days it just feels like I've got the best job in the world.
I've frequented the cabin a few times, generally either on the way to the new theatre to watch Stickman or a Julia Donaldson adaptation, or on the way to the museum as a bit of fuel, normally with my son. He gets a special coffee, just foam milk for him with chocolate
baby
on top. And Hardlines, where they can, Matt, where they...
Yeah, so you can find us here in Canton, CF51GX.
Wow!
There is.
Wow.
I've written that a lot in the last couple of months.
It's nice this road.
I can't think. I was like, should I say Iceland? We're next to Iceland, or should I give the postcode? People can make up their own mind. We've got a little hatch in Cardiff Market, which we love and which we've had for a couple of years, and which will remain there regardless of what we do here. And we're on Riverside Market every Sunday between 9 and 2. And then you can probably find a lot of our coffee in a lot of really lovely places around Cardiff, so go and support them as well.
Excellent. And I will not be bringing my son here, even though I've come here several times. This is just for me.
Yeah, space for you.
This is just for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I'd like to say thank you to you both for your time tonight. Thank you for hosting us, Ian. Thank you for your time tonight. Thank you for listening. I really, really appreciate your time. If you like what you've heard, please subscribe, please comment, please tell your friends, and hopefully we'll see you guys in the next episode. Thank you.